Middle of the desert, August. We ran out of water. The helicopters, they took off. A 40 kilometers hike until the next water spot have just became 60 kilometers. I fell on my knees. I looked up to the sky and I said, God, is this it? Is this how we're gonna die? And you know who saved our lives? Bedouins. Muslim Bedouins. My name is Mansur, reporting to you for All Israel News. Let's talk about the Israel Trail and the angels of the trail, something that is very unique to the land of Israel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an Israeli Jew, a former IDF officer in the Special Forces, and a former negotiator in the IDF. You can go and check my own YouTube channel where I talk a lot about the Special Forces and all the stories that I had from my service as well. But here I want to share with you a very unique story of how I got to know the land of Israel and all of its beauty and what makes Israel so unique in the Middle East. You see, there's something called the Israel Trail, where you can hike the whole land of Israel from the north all the way to the south. It usually takes about 42 days to walk it, inspired by a couple in their 60s. She's an American Jew, he's a Christian from Holland. And when I heard that they did the Israel Trail, I said, come on, if they did it, who am I not to do it? So I finished my military service, and the first thing I decided, I said, I want to learn about my own land, my own country, where I grew up, where I lived all of my life. So here I am, along with 3 other friends, a team of 4, a Druze, a Christian, an agnostic, and a Jew. Just decided to walk the whole land of Israel. So to make it more interesting, we took a book of history on one hand, and we marked all the places where you're going to walk, what happened historically over there, and as well the Bible. And we took the Bible and we also marked all kind of places where things happen in that spot, so we can read it in the place that it happened and experience the more live image of the stories of the Bible and history as we walk the land of Israel. Now, there's something very unique about Israel called the angels of the trail. You see, along the trail, there is families of Israelis that just come and say, we welcome Israel Trail backpackers. If you want, you can come and stay with us. We give you water, food, shower, you can do laundry, we give you a comfortable bed. And these angels are located all around the land of Israel. And what's really unique about it, they're not only Jews. You have Druze, you have Christians, you have Muslims, you have Bedouins. They're literally all around the land of Israel. Just people from their good and kindness of their heart will welcome backpackers and travelers as they walk the land of Israel. Now, I can tell you where that doesn't happen. In Syria, in Lebanon, in Jordan. Over there, you're probably going to get kidnapped, maybe even killed, or at best scenario, just robbed. I got robbed 4 times in Jordan. I got kidnapped once for trying to actually walk the land of Jordan. So that is a very unique aspect of the hospitality of the land of Israel, which mainstream media doesn't like to show you that. Because mainstream media wants many people to think right now that Israel is an apartheid, that Israel is evil, that Israel is racist, while the fact it's the exact opposite. So we started walking the Israel Trail. The northern part was beautiful. The northern part, there was so much food, so many families doing picnics, so many angels of the trail that you can come and stay at their place, just wash, refresh. We even went to my village, and I remember one day, there was a guy named Chad. He was a Christian American that I met in a hostel in Eilat. He was a devoted Christian. He's a pastor, I think, today. And when we passed by my village of Mrar, my uncle insisted that we come to our village and we get a proper rest and a proper meal. And the rumor spread that Mansur came back to his village, and my auntie came and said, if he's going to Khalona, he gotta come and stop by my house with Khalti Sonia and Ami Wakid. And then another uncle heard about it, another auntie heard about it, Khalti Yasmin, Khali Adnan, and all my relatives in the village insisted that we go to their house, and every house that we went, they just opened the feast for us. Now, bear in mind, we're walking the Israel Trail right now. We're walking about 30 to 40 kilometers a day with everything in our backpacks. We're hungry. We can eat anything. So we ended up eating all the food. But after 4 delicious Druze meals that were just spread all over the table, and no one cared if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, if you're Druze, if you're Arab, if you're Muslim, they didn't care. You're just another human being that is walking the land of Israel, and they wanted to bless you. I remember Chad coming to me and telling me, wow, man, this is, you don't get to see that everywhere. And I said, what do you mean? He says, food is a great way to show someone that you love him. And I was like thinking about it, like, what is he talking about? We just had really good food, but where is he taking that? And he came in and said, you see, where I live, if visitors are about to come to your house, you start getting worried. Do we have enough food to feed them? Can we budget-wise? You know, is that, etc., and etc. Maybe we should do it next week. I don't know. It's not convenient. Here we just came on them in the middle of the day, unannounced, and 4 families just went and opened everything they have and gave us from all the goods that they have, just because they wanted to show us that they love us. And I looked at Chad and I said, you know what, that is very, very Druze, and that is very, very Israeli. We love to host people in our homes, and we love to give them from our food, from what we have. And he was amazed by the whole thing of hospitality in Israel. So back to our story, back to the desert. The north was easy, was fun, lots of people. When we reached the desert, that's when things got challenging because we got to the desert around the end of July, beginning of August. And I remember we stayed at the house of a pastor from Agad named Yakim Figueres. He allowed us to shower in his house. They gave us some food, gave us some breakfast, and they gave us a lot of water. And then we went and we stopped at the mall in Agad and we're just chugging water and washing our face with water. We had the kafiyas, which is a very practical atta'ir to travel the desert with, and we've soaked it with water, covered our face, and we knew that right now we have 3 days hike, that every day is going to be 40 kilometers. I'm going to add the mileage somewhere here. 40 kilometers a day until the next water source. And you can't play with that. You cannot play. Water is life in the desert. And if you run out of water, you die. Very simple. First day, we're walking down from Arad all the way to the Dead Sea, Sodom and Gomorrah. And then we need to turn to the right and start walking in another direction. Me and Daniel. By this point, Chad actually left. He did only half the trail and he went back to the US. So now it's me, Daniel, and Dennis. And as we're walking, me and Daniel were a bit of ahead of the group, and Dennis was behind. And we just started talking about life, philosophy, childhood cartoon, Alfred the Quack, Transformers, I don't know what. And we didn't look at the map. And after a while, we start hearing a shout from the back. And we look back and we see Dennis kind of at the horizon. He's shouting, "Guys, did you check the map?" And I was like, "What? Did you check the map?" And I look at the map and oh boy, we just walked 10 kilometers the wrong way to the hottest place in Israel, the most unforgiving place in Israel, Sodom and Gomorrah, basically. We're going down to the Dead Sea in August in the heat. I think it was 45 to 50 degrees that day. That is very unwise to walk in the desert in these times. But hey, we had to get back to our home and we were just young and stupid. So now we need to turn back 10 kilometers back and then go and continue walking towards where we believe there might be water that can save our life. In the desert in the summer, you can't just rest under a tree, because the shadow of the tree keeps moving and the ground will start boiling you. You have to rest under the shadow of a rock, of a solid rock that's been there all morning, that it's more cool. When you're sitting in the shadow of the rock, you'll consume 1 bottle of water per person for maybe 4 to 6 hours. When you're not in the shadow, you'll consume 1 bottle of water every hour. So that's 4, 5, 6 bottles of water compared to 1. We don't have that amount of water, but now we can't also rest and stay in any shadow because we're running out of time. We just walked 20 kilometers the wrong way in the blazing sun. We noticed in the horizon there were a few military helicopters, Black Hawks. They were going, and I guess they were doing some kind of a training. So we said, we gotta go to them. So we started trying to shine at them and we started trying to hike towards them. And every time they saw us, they just flew away and landed on another hill. And we started walking back to that hill and they flew. And I think they thought that we're just really annoying tourists who were coming to try to take pictures with them and they wanted to stay away from us. At a certain point, they just flew and disappeared. And at that point, I was standing looking at Daniel and Dennis and I was thinking like, oh boy, this is really bad, guys, really bad. So we saw a tractor far, far on the horizon on a hill. And I said, okay, that's a tractor. I mean, it was a red dot. And we started walking towards it. And then we saw it looks like a tractor. So then I said, okay, guys, that might be our last chance to get water. If there's a tractor there, there might be humans there. There might be water on the vehicle itself. So we start walking towards the tractor. And we're walking for hours right now. And as we come close to the tractor, and we start seeing the image, clear image that it's a real tractor. It's not Fata Morgana or something. I remember suddenly the tractor smoked and drove away. Looking at that, I looked back at my friends. I think Dennis just sat on the ground and gave up. Daniel was just like holding his head. And I said, heck no. I looked up to the sky and said, God, is this how we're going to die? Is this how we're going to finish our lives? So I started running, sprint of my life. I'm sprinting right now knowing that if I don't reach this tractor in time, I've just wasted all of my energy and I will die at the end of the sprint. I run. The tractor disappears in the horizon and I'm just giving everything I can trying to chase a tractor in the middle of the desert. And he was on a hill a little bit above us, so he probably didn't even see us. And then the moment that I reached to the end and the tractor just disappeared, I fell on my knees and I looked up to the heavens and I said, God, this is how you're going to take me. This is the end of my story, me and my friends. That's how it's going to end. I thought it's going to be a little bit more meaningful than like that. And as I was sitting there trying to catch my breath, I'm overheated, thinking that that's it. I am about to die. Fade out. You can't really fight against thirst. You're going to fade out slowly, and then you're just going to fall asleep, and then you're just not going to wake up. I look to my right and I see 3 Bedouins behind a hill, doing coffee, smoking cigarettes. And they look at me and I look at them, and I just started laughing. And I had a huge beard. I was a bigger guy. Started running toward these Bedouins and I started hugging them and I don't know what. And I'm like, whoa, calm down, dude, what's happening? And I asked them, do you have water? And said, yes. And I started drinking. I called my friends. They came, we drank water. And then they said, listen, we can take you to our camp. You can rest a little bit, get refreshed, get some tea, some sugar, and then you can continue your hike. They saved our lives. They didn't ask if we're Jewish. They didn't ask if we're Christians. They didn't ask if we're Druze. And that's what's beautiful about Israel, that all these communities, they live together in harmony. It's just a beautiful place. And that's why I always keep saying, Israel is not the problem in the Middle East. Israel is the only chance, the only hope for true peace and coexistence in the Middle East, because that's how you should live your life. Anyway, a funny question that these Bedouins asked us. They looked at me after, we've been drinking and calming down, and they asked me, where are you guys coming from? And I said, from Al-Hadabi, from, the Hermon, the north of Israel. And they looked at me like this and said, like, by foot? I said, yeah. And I said, like, where are you going? And I said, to Eilat. That's like in the south of Israel. And they're like, by foot? And I said, yeah. And they looked at us, they looked at each other, and then they came and said, like, don't you guys have cars? And we're like, yeah, we do have cars. So why aren't you driving the cars? And I thought for a second that captures the whole essence between the difference of the European Western hiking culture towards the Middle Eastern culture. Was like, if you're poor, you walk by foot. If you have a little bit money, you might get a donkey, and then you don't walk by foot anymore. If you're even richer, you'll get a camel. Then you don't walk by foot anymore. And if you're even richer, you'll get a Toyota or a Jeep, and you're gonna drive, and you stop walking by foot in the desert. And the whole concept of doing that out of the love to the land of Israel, and because we wanted to learn about the history and the religions that came here and everything together, that was a little bit going over their head. They just looked at us like we're a bunch of weirdos. But anyway, here's some water, guys. Rest in the tent. God bless you. Continue your trail. So here are the points that I want to emphasize in this beautiful story. We should be very careful antagonizing a group of people. It doesn't matter if they're Jews, if they're Christians, if they're Muslims, because you have kind people in every religion. Further, I highly recommend, if you live in a country, get to know your country. I said to myself, before I go traveling the world, I want to get to know the land of Israel, and I want to study it in depth, and I want to read it where it happened, the Bible and the history, and bring it all together just so I can see with my own eyes. And there's so many beautiful places. I can tell you so much about it, maybe in another video, of all these biblical lessons that came to life as I was sitting there reading the scriptures where it happened. I'm just a history nerd, so I really like these things. And the third thing, and I always say that in my other channel all the time, don't do anything stupid. In general, don't do anything that I would do. And in that case, do not go hiking in the desert of Israel in August without proper water. In general, just don't go hiking in the desert in August. That's a very good thumb rule to live by. Either way, guys, stay safe and see you next time.